Hello, today is the 27th of October 2025. For those members only, I'm going to do a special, I consider it special, video, which is a little short theater play that I wrote myself today. Because I heard Dr. Gavin Ashenden. I watched his video on yesterday's parable about the Pharisee and the publican. I also heard a sermon yesterday at the Oxford Oratory on the same topic. The Pope has also spoke yesterday in his I don't think it was in church, was it? It was somewhere else that he was, and spoke about the same parable. And I have one comment which I read very carefully, and I need to read again. And I'm going to answer it, but perhaps I think I'll. If I do a live stream, I perhaps would like to answer it in more detail. So it's a little theater play that I wrote for you, my wonderful members. Today I'm going to continue with the Cardinal Virtues, and today I'm going to talk about fortitude. What is fortitude? To be willing to suffer the consequences of doing the right thing and to pay the price for it, if we must. To be willing to suffer the consequences of doing something right and just. We see it in the martyrs, in the confessors of the faith, but what I'm concerned about here is for us, for our ordinary life. You and me, when we stand for something that is right, regardless of the cost. Let me say something about courage first, and then you will see the connection to fortitude. To be valiant, to have courage, does not mean to be reckless. It doesn't mean to throw ourselves headlong into danger without thought. But it doesn't mean not being afraid. It does not mean not being afraid. We are all afraid of many things throughout our lives. Courage is not the absence of fear. We all experience fear. If you don't, you're either a fool or, I don't know, you may be a Superman or something, okay? Or you might be on drugs. It doesn't mean throwing ourselves headlong into danger without thinking of the risk to ourselves and to others. So, courage is doing what is right, in spite of fear. The fool feels nothing. The courageous person feels the fear and still acts rightly. But most of us are not called to martyrdom as we understand it, but life nevertheless gives us many smaller occasions for courage. You know what I'm talking about, telling the truth when lying would be easier, yeah. Standing for justice and what is just and what is right when keeping quiet, silence would protect our reputation, for example. Okay, so having seen this difference, fortitude has these two enemies as well. Recklessness and cowardice, the two extremes. Recklessness and cowardice. Recklessness is to have too little consideration for danger. cowardice is having too much. The courageous person finds the balance. He doesn't throw himself blindly into risk, but he doesn't either shrink away from what must be done. Now, because it is both a natural virtue and a cardinal virtue, fortitude is both a gift from God and a natural virtue. It is something planted within us, a natural strength, a force of will. What the Church teaches is to combat, always for us to combat, they say in theological language, that an irascible appetite. An irascible appetite. What is an irascible appetite? Well, take anger, for example. Even anger has that force inside of us. Everyone has it. Everyone has it. Even the most timid person has it. That anger is, which is a force, an energy, if not addressed, in the timid person, anger can actually harden into resentment, and resentment into hatred. So we must look at that force in the face, acknowledge it, and then here comes fortitude, guide it. Sometimes anger is justified. So fortitude is that guiding light, that light that manages that energy in us. Fortitude is that quality that refuses to give up, that pushes us forwards through difficulty, that gives us the power to resist despair. Fortitude is what teaches us how to use that energy, for example, how to use it rightly. But fortitude is more than perseverance, and it is also more than resignation. Perseverance, when misused, can also be stubbornness, refusing to listen, refusing to change, even when truth is there before us. Resignation has two phases. In its good form, it is the acceptance of God's will. Lord, I do not understand this suffering, but I accept it. It comes from you, and I don't know why, but I accept it. That's the good part. The bad part, resignation can also hide indifference. And indifference is that cowardly refusal to face the truth. To pretend that everything is fine, when deep down we are simply afraid to feel. So fortitude, through the will, governs these two extremes. Fear on one side, recklessness on the other, and both are courage. Think of fear. It often disguises itself as aggression. It's like a cat. A cat puffs himself up, hisses and attacks when he's afraid. A frightened human does the same. Shouts, strikes, puffs up his chest, as if noise could hide that trembling inside. And so fear is the mother of violence. That is why fortitude is needed to govern this natural energy. Anger is natural, many others. To give it reason and to give it direction and to give it purpose. You see, all the virtues work together. Prudence tells us which goal to pursue, not that one, that one. Justice gives us the rules to follow in order to achieve that goal. Temperance, that we saw in the last video, disciplines our desires. Temperance tells us to say no. Sometimes we have to say no to ourselves. Well, fortitude then gives us the strength to keep going. It gives the will the power to persist, to resist defeat, to resist silence, to stay the course through hardship. All right, so how can we grow in it and how can we apply it? Think for a second in military terms. You have attack and you have defense. You have combat and resistance. Yeah? Well, life is a good combat, a noble battle. To combat means to confront what is wrong, actively, courageously. To resist means to defend, to hold the line, to stand firm when the attack is, or the attacker is stronger than we are. And that resistance and that defense sometimes, often can be much harder than combat. Attack is initiative. Defense is endurance, to stay the course. Sometimes defense requires even greater strength. But you see, the problem is that in defense you're not in control. You have an enemy there, you don't know what he's going to do. Or in this case, temptation or instinct. So as we said, temperance is the virtue to say no. Fortitude is the virtue to say yes. It deals with the obstacles of life, the hardships, the adversities, all the problems. It says yes to what is right, yes to the difficult path, yes to continue courageously. Courage means heart, to have the heart to go on. To lose courage is to lose heart. To lose courage is to lose the heart. Cowardice overestimates the problem. It often hides under indifference or cynicism. Oh, well, there is no point, it's all the same, so what's the point? So that's not wisdom, and that is fear disguised as irony. Indifference is a way to avoid pain, a way to avoid suffering, to hide from suffering behind numbness. I don't feel, I don't see anything, and I blah, blah, blah. But you see, unaddressed fears and unaddressed pain festers. On the other side, recklessness is the refusal to calculate harm, the arrogance almost of rushing forward without prudence. that too is a betrayal of fortitude. Fortitude, rightly lived, stands between these two extremes. Fortitude is courage under reason, strength guided by wisdom, heart united to truth. All religions, not only Christianity, honor it. But detached from justice and prudence and temperance, fortitude can become pride, a cult to one's own certainty. Recklessness dressed up as courage too. How then do we grow in true fortitude? Like everything else, through training, through the small difficulties of daily life. Every hardship is a chance to strengthen that energy, that heart. Every little obstacle is an exercise in courage. We have to train ourselves in these small acts to face them, the little, perhaps not so big problems, to face them without rage and without anger and without resentment. And then I think we can grow inwardly. And so when the great trials come to us, and we'll all have a few, we are kind of trained, we are prepared, more or less. So accept the beautiful in life and let us train ourselves in small daily struggles. And when life becomes heavy, life is too heavy and sometimes almost unbearable, and the suffering is too great, that seems to overcome us. And worse, despair. Why me? Having trained ourselves in the little obstacles, in the little problems, when that big punch comes to our face, look at Christ crucified. Okay, I think I'll leave it here. Thank you very much for listening. Bye-bye.